Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Thursday, August 28th, 2025. And I haven't got my little buddy with me this morning. It's very cold this morning and early. I've got to get on the road today, so I've gone about an hour earlier than normal. And he's decided to curl up in his bed, his nice warm little bed. And he looked at me and said, "You're on your own today, Dad." So it's just me. So anyway, the show must go on. On this day, firstly, actually, let's get to, before we get into today's news, and we'll go back to, if I can find it here. Geez, I think I'd be organised, wouldn't you? All right, we'll go back to 1976, and a big day for Aussie boxing because Paul Ferrari took on Mexican great Carlos Zarate at the Inglewood Forum in California, and was stopped in the 12th round. Now, to put this in perspective, to go 12 rounds with someone like Carlos Zarate at the time was a big deal. Carlos Zarate, I think he'd won pretty much all but one or two of his fights by knockout, and this guy had probably 60 or 70 fights. I mean, he was a wrecking ball. Tall, lanky, just a hard guy who just destroyed everybody. And Paul Ferrari fought a really good fight. A little southpaw from Melbourne was Paul, and he boxed really well, smart. And I think he got a cut eye late in the fight as well, but was stopped in the 12th round. And his bid for that WBC belt did come to an end. But that happened on this day in 1976. 1997, Mexico's Ricardo Lopez knocked out Puerto Rico's Alex Sanchez in the 5th round for the world strawweight title. You don't really hear a lot of strawweight title fights these days, do you? I'm not sure. A lot of them probably in Asia, but I wasn't aware that the strawweight title was an active thing these days. Anyway, 2009, just a quick one there. Ty Pongalek or Wongala Jungle, or whatever his name is, won this another strawweight title. All right, we won't worry too much about that one. I can't pronounce the names anyway. No disrespect to those fighters on this day, but I can't pronounce the name, so sorry, boys. All right, last one. 1959, Gene Fullmer, the all-time great, stopped another all-time great, Carmen Basilio, in round 14 of a 15-round fight for the world middleweight title, and that fight took place in Daly City, California. I've never heard of Daly City, California, but there you go. All right, that's what happened on this day. All right, so I just read this morning, actually. I normally just, when I first wake up, I quickly just do a little bit of quick scrolling to make sure I haven't sort of missed anything, and there wasn't really much going on with the Aussie boxing news, but then I saw an article by Main Event, and it's pretty much laying out what's next for Nikita Tszyu. They've got big plans, the whole organisation, I suppose, his management team and everything else. It's stated, they stated that it will be probably November, or was it September, October? Just hang on, where was it? I think it was November. Hang on, I'll just make sure of that. Sorry about this, guys. Hang on. Again, you'd think I'd be organised. Main Event. All right. It will be a big fight. Looks. I'll just quickly prelude to that. It looks like it will be Michael Zarafa. Here we go. All right. And of course, it won't open. All right, don't worry about it. All right, I think it's going to, as the rain starts to come, by the way, looks like it's going to be November, and will be a big show, a stadium show, and it looks like it's going to be against Michael Zarafa, as I said. Still don't know about the fight. There's just, I don't know. There's still doubts that the fight, both fighters want the fight. I get the impression that Nikita will sort of fight anybody, but it's not really high on his agenda. Michael Zarafa, I think the same thing. I think he might relent. I don't think he really wants the fight. He wants Tim McCourt, but I think he will relent and take this fight if there's nothing else going on for him, I think. But the aim is to have, Brock Jarvis is fighting next month. There's still hope for him, but at this stage it looks like it'll be Michael. Of course, the big question comes up all the time. Is he ready for him after 11 fights? I don't know. I suppose we will soon see. You never know if you're ready until you're ready, I suppose. But the other plans I have for him is now, I think the prelude to the story was, by the way, is that the IBF, I think it is, rankings come out next week, and Nikita Tszyu will be in the top 10 for the first time. Don't know how he goes up in rankings after the win over Ismaili, but that's the way boxing works. If you're active, you're going to obviously keep going up. But he will be elevated in the top 10. He will be in line pretty much for a shot at the IBF world title, currently held by, yes, Bakram Murtazaliev. Not that I'm sure they'd be thinking of those types of fights at the moment, but he is now officially in the mix. So they're looking at Zerafa, then they're looking at a potential fight in Las Vegas. I think actually they also said they're looking to maybe get him in there before the Zerafa fight in November, which doesn't make much sense to me, considering that after the fight with Ismaili that went one round, that he had his hand in ice afterwards, and we all know he's had problems with that hand. So yeah, there's got to be question marks. There just has to be, and especially if that hand can hold up and consistently. So they're going to put him. I think it'll be a really risky proposition to put him in a fight before the Zerafa fight, if it is in fact Michael Zerafa. But anyway, that's they'll make those decisions. But that's the word is that he will then, after the 2 fights this year, then he will fight in Las Vegas. I think when's the rugby league season starts at March, and they normally get, I think, about 30,000 fans have gone over there for the last 2 Las Vegas ventures, or the tours over there. So, and some of the opponents are already looking at, who did I see there? There was it Shane Mosley Jr., Antonio Tarver Jr., Evander Holyfield's son, is it Evan Holyfield? Also Nico Ali Walsh. So you can see where I'm going with this as far as I suppose, the novelty factor of fighting a legend's son, or in Walsh's case, grandson. Look, all appealing. I think the Aussies would love it over there, but I won't lie and say that I'm just a little bit concerned that they're starting to map things out 6 to 12 months in advance, and we know where this happened with, or what happened with Tim. This is probably not as, I suppose, as extravagant as what they laid out for Tim. I mean, they're just laying out these 2 fights plus the Vegas fight. Of course, when it came to Tim, they were mapping out fights right up to fighting Canelo Alvarez. So it's a little bit different. But I understand that, by the way, that No Limit and Main Event by association, they have to start planning around Tim and maybe not having Tim as part of the equation. So I get that Nikita is now going to have to shoulder a lot of the load, and I get it. But is he ready after 11 fights and not really any international experience? I mean, the fact that he's going to be rated inside the top 10 without a meaningful fight under his belt, it's a little bit worrying that how you can easily get these, or not easily, it's not easy to get rankings, but you know what I mean? Like, he's now in the top 10 and he will climb. If he beats someone else in, if it's September, October, whatever it might be, he'll climb again, and all of a sudden he's knocking on the door for a shot at the likes of Bakram Murtazaliev. So, look, time will tell. The reports that I've heard is that in the gym he's looked sensational. He looks like he's improved a lot. His defense has improved a lot. And what he did the other night, I mean, no lie, I mean, he looked great. But, I mean, we're talking about 1 round against pretty much a punching bag. So we just don't know. And he has looked good in some of the early rounds of some of his other fights, and then he's gotten tired or been hurt or whatever it might have been, and he's sort of got into that firefight and been under in a lot of trouble. So I don't know. I would hope they would move him slower, but I also get that time is running out, and they need No Limit and Main Event need him to be fighting regularly and stepping up all the time, because they've got a business to run as well. But after 11 fights, I would just love for him, or for them, just to guide him along. I know he's 27 years of age, so he's got to make a move at some time, but I would sort of hope that they would give him, you know, maybe 3 to 4 fights a year, move him up, or maybe this year, give him another, maybe just 1 fight would be enough, especially with that hand. Fight him 3 times next year, gets him at about 15 fights, and then from 2027 really launch him. But it just seems like now they've got all these plans mapped out. And again, I'll say that the Las Vegas thing's probably more of a showcasing thing for him. It's to give everyone over in Las Vegas something else to watch while they're there, another attraction to go see, another Aussie to fly the flag. I get it. And as I said, it's not like he's fighting Murder Zalev over there. He's just fighting one of those sort of other sons or grandsons of legends. So I sort of get it again, as I said, but I'm just, yeah, I would just sort of hope that they would slow down just a little bit with the plans of Nikita Zoo. Yeah, that's the prerogative, I suppose. Now, the show they're looking to do, as the rain gets a little bit heavier here, the show they are apparently looking to do at the end of the year, the big, if it is Zarafa and it's a big stadium fight, apparently the likes of Liam Paro, Sam Goodman, I think they're looking, well, they might be on the card along with, I think there's mentions of maybe Redder versus Garside and these types of fights, which would be great. I mean, this is probably no limit. I suppose doing what we all would hope they would do, put on these big shows, put big fights on the undercard and really give us value for money. And it also looks like if that is the case, that they would scrap the October Melbourne show. So there'd be no Melbourne show and they just sort of put all the stars of the No Limit stable on that big show featuring Zarafa and Nikita. There was a question also, just I think they just had a few different points of things to consider. Who's the A side? Who walks out first? All that sort of stuff. Well, I think Michael would probably have every right to say, well, hey, I'm the A side and I'm higher ranked and probably got a better resume. But unfortunately, your opponent's got the last name Zoo. You're not the B side. So that would be a no-brainer that Michael would unfortunately have to enter the ring first, be introduced first. It's all about Nikita Zoo, unfortunately, Michael. But that's the way it rolls, I suppose, isn't it? But let's see what happens anyway. Yeah, I don't really want to be a pessimist about it, but I'm just, as I said, a little concerned with the rush that they now seem to have on Nikita's career. But anyway, maybe they're just getting organised. Who knows? All right, on to some other stuff. I did see that there's a magpie flies over my head. Bound to get swooped at some stage. Terramona. I was interviewed this week and he also said that he's looking forward to locking horns with Moses Otama down the track. That's a ripper fight. I did say the other day that Jaya Patai would be the dream fight for me, and it probably still is, but I'll tell you what, another couple of years' time, both of those guys could be really at the top of their game. This is Otama and Terramona, and would be a fantastic fight if they got it together as well. So we'll see what happens with that one. Now we're also 2.5 weeks out from Canelo and Crawford, and as always, everyone's still putting their predictions and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And I read an interesting article, it was an interview with Abel Sanchez, who trained Triple G, and I really like the way he broke it down, because even a lot of the experts and boxers and that have all said, no, well, Canelo wins, he's just too strong. Crawford wins because he's a better boxer, all this sort of stuff, but it hasn't really been a lot of depth to what they've sort of said. But I really liked Abel Sanchez's breakdown of Canelo wins and here's why. And I really liked the fact that he said that from what he's heard, that Crawford is up around the 190 mark and will come down to 168. He said he would not do it that way. If he was training, we would have got him at sort of the fight weight straight away and kept him there, which makes sense. Remember, he's going up from 154, so to get to 168 shouldn't be a problem to get there safely. I know fighters blow up after fights and everything like that, but he said he would have got him to around 170 straight away, kept him there for the whole camp and focused the whole camp around tactics and everything like that, rather than trying to control weight and strength and all this sort of stuff. He said it would have just happened naturally if Terence had just entered training camp at 170. Yep, I get it. But he also said the reason why he doesn't think Crawford beats Canelo is because of, well, strength, he said, is a major thing. He said Canelo is one hell of a tough, strong fighter. And he said you might get away with the boxing skills and all that for 3 or 4 rounds. But he said once the pace of the fight, or the pace goes out of the fight, he said then Canelo just it goes into another stratosphere. He said he's very strong, punches hard, he'll punch your arms, your shoulders, your hips, he'll do whatever it takes. And he said the fact that Terence Crawford is not a volume puncher, he said spells bad news for Terence Crawford. He said the reason why, well, Mayweather got him, I mean, I know he was a lot younger, but he said he got him because he timed him properly, punched out of sequence, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't make sense to people that don't box, but punching out of sequence. So when he's punched and trying to either rest or reset, whatever, that's when Mayweather would punch and just really offset him. And Bivol similarly, but he said the thing with Bivol that really upset Canelo was his volume punching. Whenever Canelo tried to rest, then he would pick it up and really just got him out of his comfort zone. He said that's what you've got to do with someone like Canelo. But he said he just doesn't think Crawford's that type of fighter. And that's why he thinks that Canelo will, I think he said Crawford might have success for 4 rounds, and he thinks it'll be pretty one-sided after that. So that's Abel Sanchez's breakdown, and really, really good breakdown. This is a guy I think is one of the better trainers of the last few generations, Abel Sanchez. And he's actually the one that I would love to have seen take Tim Tszyu under his wing. I think he would be, well, we've all talked about, that who would, if we had a choice, who would come in as Tim Tszyu's trainer, and Abel Sanchez would be my pick. I think he's a very, very good trainer, and obviously got a very, very good head on his shoulders. Now, just speaking of that fight as well, there is going to be a new series launched that week. There has been talks that maybe the undercard was in danger, not the one of the day of the fight, but the week of the fight. They were going to do a couple of shows. Looked like it was dead in the water, especially when Michael Hunter and Baby Miller was cancelled. But now it looks like it's back on, and it's going to be a new series created by the Ring magazine, and it's going to be called Underdogs, and it's going to be stacked full of young up-and-comers in 50-50 fights. So this is what they've been talking about for a while, and I really like the idea. So that's going to be, I think September the 11th is one of the shows, and I haven't had a real good chance to look at the fighters yet, but it's going to be apparently stacked with 6, 7, 8 fights of 50-50 fights between young up-and-coming fighters. So that should be a good thing for everyone over there for the fights. Now, actually on the fight as well, there's obviously been lots of talk about what numbers it'll generate, and I think it's obviously going to be skewed because the fight is free on Netflix, so not paying for the fight, so obviously we can't factor in pay-per-view numbers and all that sort of stuff. Gate numbers will be a little bit different, 65,000 seat arena, but the tickets are reasonable, so I think it should probably measure up with a lot of the great fights from the past. But I did see an article about the top 5 fights of all time leading up to this one, and whether it can pass those numbers. And I'll quickly go through them. Number 5 was Tyson and Lennox Lewis, back in 2002. It generated $103 million. Now, I've got no doubt if that fight took place today, you could probably triple that number, I would think. But that was 2002. The common denominator in these top 4 fights, by the way, as far as pay-per-view numbers and everything goes. Now, I haven't actually got, where was the pay-per-view numbers? Sorry, I think it was 103. No, it wasn't. 103 million in revenue. Then it was Mayweather De La Hoya in 2007. 130, it was 2006, sorry, 136 million. I think, again, you could times that by 3, if not 4 these days, with the money being generated. Mayweather Canelo in 2013 was 150. Mayweather McGregor, which took place a couple of days ago on this day back in 2017, 400. And the number 1 fight of all time was Mayweather and Pacquiao, 425. So that was, 2015. So, yeah, obviously the common denominator was Floyd Mayweather. I suppose the argument has got to be sort of put out there is that, was it Mayweather the one driving the numbers, or was it the opponents? I mean, look at the opponents that he fought. De La Hoya, Canelo, McGregor, and Pacquiao. So 4 massive names in boxing. So, I mean, that's what good businessmen do, though. They get a good dance partner, a good business partner, if you want to call it that, and they go into business together and they generate these type of numbers. So, but isn't that amazing? That Mayweather Pacquiao 425, I don't think that'll ever be beaten. I think they had 4.5 million pay-per-view buys, and I think the next best one was Mayweather McGregor as well, not just in the numbers generated, but in numbers on pay-per-view, if that makes sense. So just massive numbers. And even though the Canelo and Crawford fight will probably generate I think they're talking about a couple of 100 million people will probably watch it. Again, it is free, so it's really distorted, but it's going to be fascinating to see what interest it generates and what numbers and money and everything else goes. I would probably put it out of those fights. I don't think, as far as being a big, massive fight, I don't think I would put it above any of those 5 fights that I just mentioned. And I would even put fights like Hagler-Leonard and those type of fights above this as well. Look, this is an excellent fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I suppose you can classify it as the old-fashioned super fight, as I used to call them. It's still, even though I'm excited about getting over there and seeing the fight and seeing how it's going to pan out, it still doesn't have the excitement that those other fights did. Maybe Tyson and Lewis is probably one at the time. I remember thinking, yeah, good on paper, but geez, Tyson is so far past his best, it's ridiculous. So that was, and even Lewis was a little bit past his peak then as well, I thought. So I'll probably put a line through that one or an asterisk beside it. This fight could be the one that maybe measures up with that one, but not the other 4, excuse me. The other 4 were just absolutely massive at the time, and I don't think this fight comes anywhere near those fights as far as interest and eyeballs on it go. So anyway, let me know your thoughts, but just a little bit of a tidbit there of the biggest fights of all time. I'll quickly go through them again. Tyson Lewis at number 5, Mayweather De La Hoya at 4, Mayweather Canelo at 3, Mayweather McGregor at 2, Mayweather Pacquiao at number 1. So let's see how the build-up goes and whether this fight can get near those big fights of the past. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. I hope you have an awesome Thursday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.